The radio crackled with static as bullets whizzed overhead. In the chaos of urban warfare, when elite Navy SEALs found themselves pinned down by enemy fire, they called for backup. What they didn't expect was a voice on the other end that would make them question everything they thought they knew about warfare, precision, and the deadly art of long-distance killing. This is Ghost 7, requesting immediate sniper support. We have multiple hostiles, elevation unknown, range approximately 800 meters. The response came swift and steady. Copy that, Ghost 7. This is Phantom. I have eyes on your position. Stand by. The voice was calm, professional, and unmistakably female. In that moment, as enemy rounds continued to rain down on America's most elite fighting force, nobody cared about gender, politics, or military traditions. They cared about survival. They cared about going home. They cared about the person on the other end of that radio who held their lives in her hands and a rifle scope. What happened next would rewrite the rules of engagement, challenge a brotherhood that had stood unchallenged for decades, and prove that sometimes the most dangerous weapon on any battlefield isn't the biggest gun or the strongest soldier, it's the quiet determination of someone who refuses to accept the word impossible. This is the story of Sarah Chan, the woman they said could never be a sniper, and the shot that changed military history forever. Sarah Chan stared at the rejection letter in her hands, reading the same words for the 5th time. Thank you for your interest in the Special Operations Sniper Program. After careful consideration, we have determined that you do not meet the physical requirements for this specialized role. The letterhead bore the official seal of the United States Army, and the signature at the bottom belonged to Colonel Marcus Webb, a man she had never met but whose reputation preceded him like thunder before lightning. Growing up in a small town in Oregon, Sarah had always been different. While other kids played video games or watched television, she spent hours in the woods behind her grandfather's house, learning to track deer, identify bird calls, and, most importantly, shoot. Her grandfather, a Korean War veteran named Thomas Chan, had immigrated to America with nothing but determination and a deep respect for the country that had given his family a second chance. He taught Sarah that precision wasn't just about hitting targets, it was about discipline, patience, and understanding that every shot carried responsibility. A rifle is not a toy, little sparrow, he would tell her, using the nickname he'd given her when she was barely tall enough to hold his old hunting rifle. It is a tool that demands respect. You must become one with it, understand its voice, feel its heartbeat. Only then can you truly call yourself a marksman. Thomas had been a sniper in Korea, though he rarely spoke about those days. Sarah learned about his service not from him, but from faded newspaper clippings her grandmother kept in a shoebox. Articles about a Chinese-American soldier who had saved his platoon during the retreat from Seoul, picking off enemy soldiers with surgical precision while his unit evacuated wounded comrades. The articles called him a hero, but Thomas just called it doing his job. Sarah's parents had different plans for their daughter. Dr. James Chen, her father, was a cardiologist who had built a successful practice in Portland. Her mother, Linda, was a professor of literature at Oregon State University. They wanted Sarah to follow a traditional path: college, perhaps medical school, definitely something that would keep her safe and respected in polite society. The idea of their daughter pursuing a military career, especially in combat operations, was something they couldn't understand. You have so much potential, Sarah, her mother would say during their increasingly frequent arguments. Why would you want to throw your life away playing soldier? You could be saving lives as a doctor, or inspiring minds as a teacher. This fascination with guns and military service, it's not healthy for a young woman. But Sarah felt the calling in her bones. Every morning, she would wake before dawn and run 5 miles through the hills surrounding their home. She practiced yoga to improve her breathing and meditation to sharpen her focus. At the local shooting range, she consistently outperformed men twice her size and age, earning a reputation as the quiet girl who never missed. Range officers would shake their heads in amazement as they examined her targets, perfect clusters of holes grouped so tightly they looked like a single large puncture. Her high school guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, tried to steer her toward more appropriate interests. Sarah, you're in the top 5% of your class. You could get into any college in the country. Why are you wasting time with this military obsession? Women can serve their country in many ways that don't involve violence. The word violence always bothered Sarah. She didn't see shooting as violence, she saw it as art. The way a ballet dancer must perfect every movement, the way a surgeon must control every incision, the way a musician must master every note. Marksmanship was about control, precision, and the ability to perform under pressure. It was about protecting others, not harming them. When she turned 18, Sarah made the decision that would change everything. Against her parents' wishes and, despite the skepticism of everyone around her, she enlisted in the army. Basic training at Fort Benning was brutal, but she had expected that. What she hadn't expected was the constant questioning of her presence, the whispered conversations that stopped when she walked by, and the assumption that she was there for show rather than substance. Drill Sergeant Rodriguez was a 20-year veteran who had served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He treated all recruits with equal measures of disdain and tough love, but Sarah noticed he pushed her harder than the others. Extra push-ups, longer runs, more detailed inspections of her quarters. At first, she thought it was discrimination, but one evening after a particularly grueling training exercise, he pulled her aside. "Chen, you think I'm being unfair to you?" "No, Drill Sergeant," she replied, standing at attention. "Good, because I'm not. I'm preparing you for what's coming. Out there, in the real world, in combat, nobody's going to give you special treatment because you're a woman. They're going to expect you to pull your weight and, then, some. If you can't handle my extra attention here, you'll never survive what's waiting for you." Rodriguez was right. Advanced individual training was where Sarah first encountered the sniper program, and it was where she first heard the words that would fuel her determination for years to come. Staff Sergeant Morrison, the range instructor, watched her qualify with expert marksmanship scores using standard infantry weapons. Her groups were consistently tighter than anyone else's, her time to target faster, her performance under stress superior. "Not bad, Chen," he said, examining her latest target. "You ever think about sniper school?" The question hung in the air like morning mist. Sarah had thought about it every day since joining the army, but she had been afraid to voice the ambition out loud. "I'd be honored to try, Staff Sergeant." Morrison laughed, not unkindly, but with the sort of amusement reserved for naive children asking impossible questions. "Chen, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but sniper school isn't for everyone. It's physically demanding, mentally exhausting, and requires abilities that most people, especially most women, simply don't possess. The failure rate is over 60% for men who are specifically selected for the program. I'm not trying to discourage you, but maybe you should consider other specialties. Intelligence, communications, logistics, all important roles where someone with your skills could contribute." That night, Sarah called her grandfather from the payphone outside the barracks. At 92, Thomas Chen's voice was still strong, still carrying the quiet authority that had made him a natural leader during his military service. "Grandfather, they say I can't be a sniper because I'm a woman." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Sarah could hear the familiar sound of him preparing his evening tea, a ritual he had maintained for as long as she could remember. "Little Sparrow, do you remember what I taught you about the wind? That you have to understand it, not fight it. That you have to work with it, not against it." "Good. And what did I teach you about patience?" "That the hunter who waits is the hunter who eats." "And what did I teach you about proving yourself?" Sarah smiled, remembering countless hours spent in the woods, countless targets that seemed impossible until they weren't. "That you don't prove yourself with words. You prove yourself with results. Then, stop talking and start proving, little Sparrow. Show them what a Chen can do when someone tries to tell us we can't." The application for sniper school was 13 pages long. Medical examinations, psychological evaluations, physical fitness requirements, marksmanship qualifications, and letters of recommendation from superior officers. Sarah filled out every line with meticulous care, submitted every required document, and scored in the top percentile on every test and evaluation. The rejection letter arrived 3 weeks later. She applied again 6 months later, after completing additional training and improving her already exceptional physical fitness scores. The second rejection came with a phone call from Colonel Webb's office. His aide, a bored-sounding captain named Phillips, delivered the news with all the warmth of a weather report. "Miss Chen, Colonel Webb asked me to inform you that while your qualifications are impressive, the sniper program has very specific requirements that cannot be modified for individual circumstances. He suggests you consider other career paths within the Army where your talents would be better utilized." "Can you tell me specifically what requirements I failed to meet?" Sarah asked. "I'm not authorized to discuss specifics, Miss Chen. The decision is final." Sarah hung up the phone and sat in her small apartment near Fort Campbell, where she was now stationed as an infantry soldier. Around her, the walls were covered with targets she had shot, maps of shooting ranges she had conquered, and photographs of her grandfather in his army uniform. In one corner stood the rifle case containing the custom .308 her grandfather had given her for her 21st birthday, a Remington 700 that had been his service weapon, carefully maintained and lovingly restored. Her commanding officer, Captain Bradley, was a fair man who had quickly recognized Sarah's exceptional abilities. He had been the one to write her letter of recommendation for sniper school, and he was the one who found her that evening, sitting alone in the company break room, staring at the rejection letter. "Chen, I heard about the sniper program. I'm sorry. Sir, permission to speak freely?" "Always, Chen. What's on your mind?" "I don't understand, sir. I meet every qualification they list. I exceed most of them. My marksmanship scores are higher than anyone in this unit, including the designated marksman. My physical fitness scores are in the top 5% for my age group. I have recommendations from every superior officer I've served under. What am I missing?" Captain Bradley sat down across from her, his expression thoughtful. He was a combat veteran who had served 3 tours in Afghanistan, and Sarah had always respected his honesty. "Chen, you want the truth? You're not missing anything. Your qualifications are outstanding. But sniper school isn't just about qualifications on paper. It's about perception, tradition, and politics. There are people in command positions who believe that certain roles should remain unchanged, regardless of individual capability. That's not fair, sir." "No, it's not. But fair and reality are 2 different things. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Sarah looked at the rejection letter again, then at the photographs of her grandfather on the wall. In one picture, he was standing with his platoon in Korea, his rifle slung over his shoulder, his expression serious but confident. He was smaller than most of the other soldiers, clearly different in appearance, but he belonged there. He had earned his place through action, not argument. "Sir, I'm going to keep trying. But I'm also going to make sure that when I finally get my chance, there won't be any question about whether I belong." Captain Bradley smiled. "That's what I was hoping you'd say. Chen, I'm going to help you. But not in the way you might expect." Over the following months, Captain Bradley introduced Sarah to a network of current and former snipers who were willing to provide informal training. Sergeant First Class Martinez, who had served as a sniper in Iraq, spent his weekends teaching her advanced techniques for reading environmental conditions. Staff Sergeant Thompson, a Marine Scout sniper on joint training exercises, showed her military shooting positions and fieldcraft that weren't taught in standard infantry training. Most importantly, Bradley connected her with Master Sergeant Williams, a legendary Army sniper who had recently retired after 25 years of service. Williams was initially skeptical about training a woman for a role he had seen as exclusively male throughout his career, but Sarah's performance on the range quickly changed his mind. "Chen, I've seen a lot of shooters in my time," Williams told her after watching her consistently hit targets at distances that challenged experienced snipers. "Most of them think shooting long range is about power, about muscle, about forcing the shot to go where you want it. You understand something that took me years to learn: it's about harmony. You don't fight the rifle, the wind, or the environment. You become part of the system." Williams became her unofficial mentor, meeting with her twice a week to work on advanced techniques. He taught her about reading mirage patterns to judge wind conditions, about calculating bullet drop and drift for various ammunition types, about the psychological aspects of precision shooting under stress. "Sniping isn't just about pulling the trigger, Chen. Any fool can learn to shoot accurately given enough time and practice. A real sniper has to be able to do everything: navigation, camouflage, communication, reconnaissance, target identification, and, yes, shooting. But, more than that, a sniper has to be able to make life and death decisions in seconds and live with the consequences forever." The training was intensive and demanding. Sarah would finish her regular duties with her infantry unit, then spend hours working on sniper skills. She learned to construct ghillie suits for camouflage, to move silently through various terrains, to remain motionless for hours while observing targets. She studied ballistics tables until she could calculate trajectory adjustments in her head, memorized the characteristics of enemy weapons and equipment, and practiced calling in airstrikes and artillery support using proper military communication protocols. Her fellow soldiers began to notice the changes. Sarah was always physically fit, but now she moved with a different kind of awareness, constantly scanning her environment, unconsciously noting wind direction and range to various objects. During field exercises, she would point out enemy positions that others had missed, identify concealed threats before they became dangerous, and demonstrate shooting skills that made seasoned veterans take notice. Word of her abilities began to spread through unofficial channels. Officers from other units would request her assistance during training exercises. She began receiving invitations to participate in marksmanship competitions, where she consistently placed among the top shooters despite having no formal sniper training. Her reputation was growing, but so was the resistance from certain quarters. Colonel Morrison, who oversaw sniper training for the region, made his position clear during a visit to Sarah's base. "I don't care how well this soldier can shoot," he told Captain Bradley. "Sniper school has standards that exist for good reasons. We're not going to lower those standards or make exceptions based on political correctness or social experimentation." But Sarah wasn't asking for lowered standards or special treatment. She was asking for the opportunity to meet the same standards as everyone else. The more she trained, the more confident she became that she could not only meet those standards but exceed them. Her third application to sniper school was different. Instead of simply listing her qualifications, Sarah included detailed documentation of her training with Williams, video evidence of her shooting performance under various conditions, and testimonials from multiple officers who had observed her skills firsthand. She also included a formal request to challenge any specific aspect of the training that might be considered beyond her capabilities. The response came faster this time, just 2 weeks after her application. But it wasn't a letter, it was a phone call directly from Colonel Webb's office. "Soldier Chen, this is Colonel Webb. I understand you've been persistent in your applications to sniper school." "Yes, sir. I believe I'm qualified for the training. Your file makes interesting reading, Chen. Your shooting scores are exceptional, your physical fitness is outstanding, and you have strong recommendations from your chain of command. But I'm curious about something. Why is this so important to you? Why not pursue other military specialties where you could have a successful career without facing the resistance you've encountered?" Sarah had prepared for this question, but when the moment came, she found herself thinking not about rehearsed answers but about her grandfather's words: "You don't prove yourself with words. You prove yourself with results." "Sir, I believe I can save lives as a sniper. I believe I can serve my country in this capacity better than in any other role. And, respectfully, sir, I believe the Army is missing an opportunity to utilize a soldier who has demonstrated exceptional ability in this field." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Sarah could hear papers shuffling, keyboard clicking, and muffled conversation in the background. "Chen, I'm going to make you an offer. It's not the offer you want, but it might be the opportunity you need. We have a special training program starting next month, a pilot program designed to evaluate new techniques and technologies for sniper training. It's not official sniper school, and completion doesn't guarantee selection for sniper school, but it would give you a chance to demonstrate your abilities under the same conditions as our regular sniper candidates. Are you interested?" Sarah's heart raced. It wasn't the direct admission to sniper school she had hoped for, but it was a foot in the door, a chance to prove herself under official observation. "Yes, sir. I'm very interested." "Good. Report to Fort Bragg next Monday. Ask for Major Stevens, he'll be running the program." "Chen, I want to be clear about something. This is not a guarantee of anything beyond the training itself. You'll be evaluated against the same standards as any other candidate, and those standards will not be modified in any way. If you can't keep up, you'll be sent back to your unit. If you can't perform, you'll be eliminated. Are we clear?" "Crystal clear, sir." "One more thing, Chen. There will be people watching this program very carefully. People who believe it's a waste of time and resources. People who believe you're going to fail and prove their point about women in combat roles. Don't give them the satisfaction." "I won't, sir." As Sarah hung up the phone, she realized that everything she had worked for over the past 3 years was about to be put to the ultimate test. She had one chance to prove that the quiet girl from Oregon could stand alongside the most elite soldiers in the world. One chance to show that gender was less important than skill, that determination could overcome prejudice, and that sometimes the most dangerous underestimate an enemy could make was assuming they knew what their opponent was capable of. She called her grandfather that night to share the news. At 93, his voice was weaker than it had been, but his pride was unmistakable. "Little Sparrow, you are about to discover something important. The mountain doesn't care if the climber is male or female, young or old, big or small. The mountain only cares if the climber is prepared, determined, and willing to do whatever it takes to reach the summit. Show them what it means to be a Chen." Sarah packed her gear that weekend with meticulous care. Every piece of equipment was cleaned, inspected, and arranged with military precision. As she folded her uniforms and organized her personal items, she thought about all the people who had told her this day would never come and all the people who had helped make it possible. Tomorrow, she would begin the most challenging training of her life. Tomorrow, she would face instructors who expected her to fail and fellow soldiers who questioned her presence. Tomorrow, she would start proving that sometimes the most powerful weapon in any army isn't the biggest gun or the strongest soldier, it's the quiet determination of someone who refuses to accept the word impossible. The little girl who had learned to shoot in the Oregon woods was about to become a woman who would change the face of military service forever. But, first, she had to survive what everyone assumed would destroy her. Fort Bragg at dawn looked like a military postcard, endless rows of identical buildings, perfectly maintained grounds, and soldiers moving with purposeful precision. Sarah arrived at the designated training facility 30 minutes early, her gear bag slung over her shoulder and her grandfather's rifle case in her hand. The building was unremarkable from the outside, but she knew that behind its plain walls lay one of the most demanding training programs in the American military. Major Stevens was waiting in the briefing room when Sarah and 11 other candidates filed in for their first day. Stevens was a compact man with graying hair and eyes that seemed to catalog every detail about the soldiers standing before him. His reputation preceded him. He was a 22-year veteran who had served as a sniper in multiple combat deployments and was now responsible for developing new training methodologies for special operations forces. "Ladies and gentlemen," Stevens began, his voice carrying the quiet authority that comes from years of command, "welcome to what we're calling the Advanced Marksmanship and Reconnaissance Program. You are here because someone in your chain of command believes you have potential. Over the next 8 weeks, we will determine whether that belief is justified." Sarah glanced around the room at her fellow candidates. 11 men, all infantry soldiers with exemplary records, all physically imposing in the way that combat soldiers tend to be. Several were already qualified as designated marksmen in their units. All of them were staring at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism. This program is designed to evaluate new training techniques, new equipment, and new approaches to sniper operations. You will be tested on marksmanship, fieldcraft, physical fitness, mental resilience, and mission planning. The standards are identical to those used in regular sniper school, and the failure rate will likely be similar. Approximately 60 to 70% of you will not complete this program. Stevens paused to let that information sink in before continuing. "I want to address something immediately. Candidate Chen, you are the first woman to participate in this type of training. Some of you may have opinions about that fact. Keep those opinions to yourself. You will be evaluated solely on your performance, and your classmates will be judged on their ability to work as part of a team regardless of personal prejudices." One of the candidates, a tall sergeant named Jackson from the 82nd Airborne, raised his hand. "Sir, will standards be modified to account for physiological differences between male and female soldiers?" Stevens' expression didn't change, but Sarah could sense the sharpening of his attention. "Sergeant Jackson, there is only one standard in this program. You meet it, or you fail. There are no modifications, no accommodations, and no special considerations for anyone. Is that clear?" "Clear, sir." "Outstanding. Now, let's discuss what you're going to be doing for the next 8 weeks. The training schedule was brutal. Physical fitness at 0500, classroom instruction from 0700 to 1200, practical exercises from 1300 to 1800, and individual study time until 2200. Weekends would involve field exercises that could last up to 72 hours. Sleep would be a luxury, privacy would be non-existent, and failure would be immediate and final. The first week focused on basic shooting skills, but at a level far beyond standard infantry training. Candidates were expected to engage targets accurately at distances up to 1,000 meters using various rifles and ammunition types. They had to demonstrate proficiency in multiple shooting positions, calculate ballistic corrections for wind and elevation, and maintain accuracy under physical stress. Sarah had been prepared for this by her months of training with Master Sergeant Williams, but, even so, the pace was challenging. Each morning began with a 3-mile run in full gear, followed by calisthenics that left even the fittest candidates struggling. Then came hours on the shooting range, where every shot was measured, recorded, and analyzed. Instructor Garcia, a former Marine Scout sniper, observed Sarah's shooting with particular attention during the first week. She consistently outperformed most of her classmates, but she could sense his skepticism about her overall capabilities. "Chen, your shooting is solid," he told her after a particularly demanding session involving multiple targets at varying distances. "But shooting is only part of what we do. How are you going to handle the physical demands? How are you going to carry the same load as your teammates? How are you going to function when you're exhausted, hungry, and under pressure?" "Sir, I'm prepared to meet the same standards as anyone else in this program." "We'll see, Chen. We'll see." The physical challenges were indeed demanding. Candidates had to carry full combat loads weighing over 60 pounds during long-distance movements. They had to low-crawl through mud, climb over obstacles, and navigate difficult terrain while maintaining noise discipline and staying alert for threats. Sarah was smaller than her male classmates, but she had spent months building functional strength specifically for these tasks. During a particularly grueling exercise involving a 12-mile movement with full gear, candidate Morrison, a stocky staff sergeant from Fort Campbell, began making comments designed to undermine Sarah's confidence. "This is ridiculous," he muttered loudly enough for others to hear. "We're going to have to carry her gear when she can't keep up. This whole program is going to be compromised because they wanted to make a political statement." Sarah didn't respond to the comments, but she noticed that several other candidates were listening and watching to see how she would handle the situation. She had learned from her grandfather that actions spoke louder than words, so she focused on maintaining her pace and completing the mission. Halfway through the movement, Morrison stumbled and twisted his ankle. He tried to continue but was clearly struggling. Without hesitation, Sarah moved to assist him, taking part of his equipment load and helping him maintain the required pace to complete the exercise. "Why are you helping me?" Morrison asked, clearly confused by her assistance after his earlier comments. "Because we're a team, and teams don't leave people behind," Sarah replied simply. The incident was observed by the instructors, and Morrison's attitude toward Sarah began to shift. By the end of the first week, he was one of her strongest supporters among the candidates. Week 2 introduced fieldcraft, the art of moving unseen, gathering intelligence, and surviving in hostile environments. Candidates learned to construct ghillie suits for camouflage, to move silently across various types of terrain, and to remain hidden while observing enemy positions for extended periods. Sarah excelled at these skills. Her smaller size, which some had seen as a disadvantage, actually helped her move more quietly and conceal herself more effectively than larger candidates. Her patience, developed through years of hunting with her grandfather, allowed her to remain motionless for hours while conducting surveillance exercises. Instructor Walsh, a former Delta Force operator who taught the fieldcraft portions of the program, was impressed by Sarah's natural ability in this area. "Chen, you have an instinct for this work that can't be taught," he told her after an exercise where she had successfully infiltrated and observed a mock enemy position without being detected. "Most soldiers have to learn patience the hard way. You seem to understand intuitively that sometimes the best action is no action at all." But the program wasn't just about individual skills, it was about functioning as part of a team under extreme stress. Week 3 introduced mission planning and execution, where candidates had to work together to complete complex objectives under simulated combat conditions. The first team exercise paired Sarah with Jackson, the sergeant who had initially questioned her presence in the program. Their mission was to infiltrate an enemy-controlled area, identify specific targets, and provide intelligence for a follow-up assault by friendly forces. They had to plan their route, coordinate their movements, and maintain communication while avoiding detection. Jackson was initially reluctant to rely on Sarah for mission-critical tasks, preferring to take the lead on most aspects of the operation. But, as they moved through the exercise, her skills became undeniable. She identified threats that he had missed, found concealment positions that he couldn't see, and maintained better situational awareness throughout the operation. "Chen, I owe you an apology," Jackson told her as they completed the mission debrief. "I made assumptions about your capabilities based on preconceived notions. You're a better soldier than most men I've served with." "Thank you, Sergeant. I appreciate that." "No, thank you.
You've made me a better soldier by forcing me to confront my own biases.
The exchange was overheard by other candidates, and Sarah noticed a gradual shift in how her classmates interacted with her. Instead of skepticism, she began to encounter genuine respect for her abilities. Week 4 brought the psychological evaluations and stress testing that separated true sniper candidates from merely skilled shooters. Candidates were subjected to sleep deprivation, time pressure, physical exhaustion, and simulated combat stress while being required to perform complex tasks with perfect precision. Dr. Martinez, the program's psychologist, explained the rationale during a classroom session. A sniper often operates alone or with minimal support in high-stress environments. You must be able to make life-and-death decisions under extreme pressure while maintaining perfect emotional control.
We need to know how you function when everything is working against you.
The stress testing involved scenarios where candidates had to engage multiple targets while under simulated enemy fire, make split-second decisions about target identification, and maintain accuracy while dealing with equipment malfunctions and communication breakdowns. Sarah found these exercises challenging but manageable. Her years of meditation and mental preparation had given her unusual emotional stability under pressure. While some candidates became flustered or angry when faced with equipment failures or time constraints, Sarah remained calm and focused on problem solving. During one particularly difficult exercise, candidates had to engage a series of targets at extreme range while dealing with rapidly changing wind conditions and a malfunctioning scope. Several experienced shooters failed to complete the task successfully, but Sarah adapted quickly to the challenges and achieved all her objectives within the time limit. Major Stevens observed the exercise personally and pulled Sarah aside afterward for a private conversation.
Chen, your performance under stress is exceptional.
You have a natural ability to compartmentalize pressure and focus on the task at hand.
That's a rare quality, even among experienced special operations personnel.
Thank you, sir.
I've learned that panic is just wasted energy that could be better used solving problems. Where did you learn that?
From my grandfather, sir. He taught me that fear is normal, but fear doesn't have to control your actions.
Stevens nodded thoughtfully.
Your grandfather sounds like a wise man.
He is, sir. He's the reason I'm here.
Week 5 introduced advanced marksmanship techniques and equipment that pushed the boundaries of long-range shooting. Candidates learned to use sophisticated ballistic computers, thermal imaging systems, and specialized ammunition designed for extreme distance engagements. They practiced shooting at targets over 1,500 meters away, requiring calculations that accounted for numerous environmental factors.
Sarah's mathematical aptitude, strengthened by her college coursework, served her well in these advanced applications.
She quickly mastered the use of ballistic computers and demonstrated an intuitive understanding of how various factors affected bullet trajectory at extreme distances. Instructor Phillips, a former Navy SEAL who specialized in extreme long-range shooting, worked closely with candidates on these advanced techniques. He was initially skeptical about Sarah's ability to handle the physical demands of the heavy, specialized rifles used for ultra-long-range work, but her performance quickly changed his mind. Chen, you're the most natural long-range shooter I've worked with in 15 years of teaching, Phillips told her after she successfully engaged targets at 1,800 meters using a .50 caliber rifle. You understand instinctively how to read conditions, calculate corrections, and time your shots. That kind of ability usually takes years to develop. The heavy rifles were indeed physically demanding, but Sarah had prepared for this challenge through months of specific strength training. She could handle the equipment effectively and maintain accuracy even during extended shooting sessions. Week 6 brought field exercises that combined all the skills candidates had learned into realistic mission scenarios. Teams were inserted into remote areas and required to complete multi-day operations involving reconnaissance, target identification, and precision shooting under field conditions. Sarah was paired with Rodriguez, a Special Forces sergeant who had initially been neutral about her presence in the program. Their mission involved infiltrating a simulated enemy compound, identifying key personnel, and eliminating specific targets while avoiding detection by security forces. The exercise took place in challenging terrain during late fall weather, with temperatures near freezing and intermittent rain that made movement difficult. Sarah and Rodriguez had to cover over 15 miles on foot, establish concealed observation positions, and maintain surveillance for 36 hours before executing their mission. During the surveillance phase, Sarah demonstrated the patience and attention to detail that made her exceptional at this type of work. She identified patterns in the enemy security procedures that Rodriguez had missed, located concealed defensive positions, and developed a detailed understanding of the target area that proved crucial to mission success. When the time came to engage their assigned targets, Sarah's shooting was flawless. She eliminated 3 high-value targets at ranges from 600 to 1100 meters using different rifles and ammunition types. Each shot was precise, immediate, and executed under realistic field conditions. "Chen, that was some of the finest precision shooting I've ever witnessed," Rodriguez told her as they exfiltrated from the target area. "You made those shots look routine, but I know how difficult they were."
"Thank you, Sergeant. I had excellent training." "Who trained you?"
"My grandfather started it, but Master Sergeant Williams taught me most of what I know about military applications."
"Williams? I know Williams. If he trained you, that explains a lot. He's a legend in the sniper community." The successful completion of the field exercise marked a turning point in how the instructors viewed Sarah's capabilities.
She had proven she could perform under realistic conditions, not just in controlled training environments. The questioning of her abilities gave way to recognition of her exceptional talent.
Week 7 focused on mission planning and leadership skills.
Candidates were required to plan and execute complex operations, brief their teammates, and make command decisions under pressure. This phase of training was designed to identify soldiers who could not only perform sniper missions but also lead sniper teams in combat. Sarah was assigned to plan a raid on a defended position that required precise coordination between multiple sniper teams and assault forces. She had to analyze intelligence, identify optimal shooting positions, coordinate timing with other elements, and develop contingency plans for various scenarios. Her plan was methodical, thorough, and demonstrated an understanding of how sniper operations integrated with larger military objectives. During the execution phase, her leadership was calm and effective, adjusting to unexpected developments without losing sight of the overall mission goals.
Major Stevens observed the exercise and provided feedback during the debrief.
"Chen, your planning was excellent, but, more importantly, your leadership under stress was outstanding. You made good decisions quickly and communicated effectively with your team. Those are the qualities we look for in sniper team leaders." Week 8 was the final evaluation, combining all elements of the program into a comprehensive test of each candidate's abilities. Candidates had to demonstrate proficiency in all areas while operating under maximum stress and time pressure. The final exercise was a solo mission where each candidate had to infiltrate an enemy area alone, gather intelligence over a 48-hour period, and eliminate a high-value target under extremely challenging conditions. Weather was deliberately poor, equipment failures were introduced randomly, and candidates had to overcome unexpected obstacles while maintaining mission security.
Sarah's final mission took place during a winter storm that reduced visibility and made movement treacherous.
She had to cover 12 miles on foot in snow and freezing rain, establish a concealed position within 800 meters of her target, and wait for the optimal opportunity to complete her mission. The target appeared only twice during her 48-hour observation period, both times under difficult shooting conditions.
The first opportunity was rejected because of inadequate target identification protocols.
The second opportunity required a shot at 950 meters through swirling wind and light snow. Sarah took her time, reading the conditions carefully and calculating all the variables that could affect her shot. When she squeezed the trigger, the bullet flew true, striking the target with precision that impressed even the most experienced instructors. "Confirmed kill at 952 meters in adverse conditions," reported the range safety officer over the radio. Exceptional shooting under extreme circumstances. As Sarah completed her extraction from the target area, she reflected on the 8 weeks that had transformed her from a soldier with potential into someone who had proven herself capable of operating at the highest levels of military precision. She had met every challenge, exceeded every expectation, and earned the respect of instructors and classmates who had initially doubted her abilities. The graduation ceremony was small and private, attended only by the successful candidates, their instructors, and a few senior officers. Of the 12 soldiers who had begun the program, 7 completed it successfully. Sarah was not only among the graduates but was recognized as the honor graduate for overall excellence. Colonel Webb, who had initially rejected her applications to sniper school, was present for the ceremony. After presenting certificates to the graduates, he approached Sarah personally.
"Soldier Chen, I owe you an apology. My initial assessment was based on assumptions rather than evidence.
Your performance in this program has been exceptional, and you have demonstrated abilities that surpass most sniper school graduates.
I will be recommending you for immediate acceptance into the next sniper school class.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity to prove myself. You've done more than prove yourself, Chen.
You've proven that ability transcends preconceptions. That's a valuable lesson for all of us.
As Sarah packed her gear and prepared to return to her home unit to await orders for sniper school, she thought about the journey that had brought her to this point. The quiet girl from Oregon who had learned to shoot in the woods behind her grandfather's house was now a soldier who had earned her place among the most elite marksmen in the American military. But this was just the beginning. Sniper school would be even more challenging, and the real test would come when she finally had the opportunity to put her skills to use in actual combat. Sarah was ready for whatever came next, confident in her abilities and secure in the knowledge that she had earned her place through performance, not politics. The phone call to her grandfather that night was one of the happiest conversations of her life. At 93, Thomas Chen's voice was filled with pride as his granddaughter described her accomplishments. "Little Sparrow, you have honored our family and your country. But, more importantly, you have honored yourself by never giving up on your dreams. Now comes the real test, using these skills to protect others and serve the greater good."
I'm ready, grandfather. I know what I'm capable of now.
Good.
Remember, the rifle is just a tool.
The real weapon is the mind that guides it and the heart that gives it purpose. Never forget why you chose this path. As Sarah hung up the phone and prepared for sleep in her small quarters, she knew that everything she had accomplished so far was preparation for the challenges ahead. She had proven she belonged among elite soldiers, but now she had to prove she could perform when lives depended on her skills. The little girl who had dreamed of serving her country was about to become a woman who would change how the military understood the relationship between capability and gender. But first, she had to survive sniper school and earn the right to call herself what she had always known she could be, one of the most dangerous people on any battlefield. The United States Army Sniper School at Fort Benning, Georgia, had a reputation that preceded it like rolling thunder across a summer sky. For 47 years, it had been turning ordinary soldiers into precision instruments of warfare, teaching them not just how to shoot, but how to think, how to survive, and how to carry the weight of life and death decisions that most people could never imagine. Sarah Chen stood at the gates of the school on a humid Monday morning in early March, her gear bag over her shoulder and her grandfather's rifle case in her hand. Around her, 23 other soldiers were gathering for the beginning of what many considered the most challenging individual training course in the American military. Unlike the pilot program at Fort Bragg, this was the real thing, official sniper school, where graduation meant joining one of the most exclusive brotherhoods in military service. The difference was immediately apparent. Where the pilot program had been experimental and relatively small, sniper school was an institution with traditions dating back to the Vietnam War. The instructors were legends in the military community, veterans of multiple combat deployments who had proven themselves not just as shooters but as teachers capable of passing on knowledge that saved lives. Chief Warrant Officer Anderson was the senior instructor, a man whose reputation in the sniper community was unmatched. He had served in every major American military conflict since the Gulf War, with confirmed kills in Iraq and Afghanistan that earned him both respect and a certain mystique among younger soldiers. He was also known for his uncompromising standards and his belief that sniper training should be the most demanding school in the military. Ladies and gentlemen, Anderson began as the 24 candidates assembled in the main classroom. Welcome to United States Army Sniper School. Over the next 10 weeks, you will undergo the most comprehensive training in precision marksmanship, fieldcraft, and mission planning available anywhere in the world. You will be pushed beyond your limits physically, mentally, and emotionally. Most importantly, you will discover whether you have what it takes to call yourself a sniper. Sarah glanced around at her classmates, noting immediately that she was not just the only woman but also one of the smallest soldiers in the group. The men around her were impressive physical specimens: Rangers, Special Forces, Airborne Infantry, and Marines who had already proven themselves in combat. Several bore visible scars from overseas deployments, and their bearing suggested experience under fire. Anderson continued his briefing without acknowledging the historic nature of Sarah's presence, which she appreciated. The failure rate for this course averages 68%.
That means most of you will not graduate.
The reasons for failure are varied: inadequate marksmanship, poor fieldcraft, inability to handle stress, failure to work as part of a team, or simply the inability to meet the physical and mental demands of the training. One of the candidates, a tall ranger sergeant named Thompson, raised his hand.
Chief, what's the most common reason for failure?
Overconfidence, Anderson replied without hesitation. Soldiers who think their previous experience or natural ability will carry them through without maximum effort. This school doesn't care about your reputation, your rank, or your previous accomplishments.
It only cares about your performance during the next 10 weeks.
The first week was designed to establish baseline capabilities and identify candidates who clearly lack the fundamental skills necessary for sniper training. Physical fitness testing pushed soldiers to their limits, with standards that exceeded those required for most special operations units. Marksmanship evaluation required precision shooting at distances up to 800 meters using standard military rifles. Sarah's performance during the first week was exceptional, but she was careful not to stand out unnecessarily. Her grandfather had taught her that the best hunters were often invisible until the moment they struck. She met all requirements with quiet efficiency, helping classmates when appropriate and focusing on learning rather than demonstrating her existing skills. The marksmanship instruction was led by Sergeant First Class Martinez, a former Marine Scout sniper who had served 3 combat tours before transferring to the Army and becoming an instructor. Martinez was initially skeptical about having a female student in his class, but he was also a professional who judged soldiers by their performance rather than their appearance. "Chen, your shooting fundamentals are solid," Martinez told her after the first week of range work.
"Better than solid, actually." "Who taught you to shoot?"
"My grandfather started teaching me when I was 8, Sergeant." Master Sergeant Williams provided military-specific training over the past year.
"Williams? That explains a lot. He's one of the best instructors I've ever worked with."
"If he trained you, then you've got a good foundation to build on." The second week introduced the academic aspects of sniper training that many soldiers found surprisingly challenging. Ballistics calculations, weather analysis, range estimation, and map reading were taught at a level that required genuine intellectual capability. Candidates had to master mathematical formulas, memorize extensive data tables, and demonstrate their ability to solve complex problems under time pressure. Sarah's college education served her well in these academic challenges. While some of her classmates struggled with the mathematical aspects of ballistics, she found the material intuitive and was often called upon to help other students understand difficult concepts. Private First Class Williams, a young infantry soldier from the 101st Airborne, was particularly grateful for Sarah's assistance with ballistics calculations. "Chen, I don't know how you make this stuff look so easy," he told her during a study session. "I've been struggling with these wind calculations for 2 days." "It's not that complicated once you understand the underlying principles," Sarah replied, showing him a simplified approach to the calculations. "Think of it as a puzzle where each piece of information helps you find the solution." Williams eventually mastered the material with Sarah's help, and their study group became a model for collaboration that the instructors noted approvingly. The ability to work as part of a team was considered crucial for sniper operations, where trust and communication could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Week 3 brought the introduction of advanced shooting techniques and equipment. Candidates learned to use night vision systems, thermal imaging equipment, and specialized rifles designed for specific operational requirements. They practiced shooting from unconventional positions, engaging multiple targets in sequence, and maintaining accuracy while dealing with equipment malfunctions. The night shooting exercises were particularly challenging. Candidates had to engage targets at various distances using night vision systems that provided a different visual perspective than normal daylight shooting. Sarah's smaller size actually proved advantageous during these exercises, as she could achieve more stable shooting positions in confined spaces and moved more quietly during nighttime stalking exercises. Instructor Davis, a former Delta Force operator who taught the night operations portion of the course, was impressed by Sarah's natural ability in this area. "Chen, you have exceptional situational awareness in low-light conditions," he told her after a complex exercise involving multiple targets and simulated enemy patrols. "Most soldiers need extensive practice to develop that kind of spatial awareness at night.
You seem to have it naturally."
"Thank you, Sergeant. I spent a lot of time hunting at dawn and dusk with my grandfather. He taught me to use all my senses, not just my eyes."
"Smart man.
That kind of training is invaluable for this type of work." Week 4 introduced fieldcraft and stalking, skills that separated true snipers from mere marksmen. Candidates learned to move invisibly across various types of terrain, construct effective camouflage, and approach targets without being detected. The training took place in forests, swamps, and urban environments, each presenting unique challenges. The stalking exercises were exhausting and humbling experiences for most candidates. They had to cover distances of several miles while remaining undetected by instructors who were actively searching for them. Every movement had to be calculated, every step planned to avoid making noise or leaving visible signs of passage. Sarah excelled at stalking, her patience and understanding of natural movement patterns allowing her to achieve objectives that challenged much larger and stronger soldiers. During one exercise, she successfully infiltrated within 50 meters of an instructor's position without being detected, a feat that impressed even the most experienced staff. "Chen, your stalking ability is exceptional," Chief Anderson told her after observing one of her exercises. "You understand instinctively how to use terrain and natural cover to your advantage. That's a skill that can't really be taught, you either have it or you don't." "Thank you, Chief. My grandfather taught me to think like the animals I was hunting. To understand how they see, how they move, and how they think." "Your grandfather sounds like he was quite a teacher." "He still is, Chief. He's 93 and still hunting." Anderson smiled, one of the few times Sarah had seen him show genuine warmth. "I'd like to meet him someday." Men who can teach those kinds of skills are rare. Week 5 brought psychological evaluation and stress testing that pushed candidates to their breaking points. Sleep deprivation, time pressure, physical exhaustion, and simulated combat stress were combined to create conditions that revealed each soldier's true capabilities under extreme pressure. The stress testing included scenarios where candidates had to make life and death decisions about target identification while under simulated enemy fire. They had to distinguish between combatants and civilians, identify high-value targets among multiple suspects, and make split-second decisions that could have far-reaching consequences. Sarah's performance during stress testing was remarkable. While some candidates became agitated or made poor decisions under pressure, she remained calm and methodical. Her ability to compartmentalize stress and focus on problem-solving made her one of the most reliable performers in high-pressure situations. Dr. Phillips, the school psychologist, conducted individual evaluations with each candidate during this phase of training. His assessment of Sarah was notably positive. "Chen, your psychological profile is exceptional for this type of work," he told her during their session. "You have unusual emotional stability under stress and an ability to make rational decisions even when facing simulated life-threatening situations." "Thank you, sir. I've learned that panic doesn't solve problems, it just creates new ones." "That's a mature perspective. Where did you develop that understanding?" "From meditation practice and from my grandfather's teaching. He always said that the mind is the most important weapon a soldier can carry." He's absolutely right. Mental resilience is often the determining factor in whether someone succeeds in high-stress occupations like this. Week 6 introduced mission planning and leadership skills that were essential for sniper team operations. Candidates learned to analyze intelligence, plan complex operations, brief team members, and adapt to changing circumstances during mission execution. Sarah was assigned to lead a simulated hostage rescue operation that required precise coordination between sniper teams and assault forces. She had to analyze the target building, identify optimal shooting positions, coordinate timing with other elements, and develop contingency plans for various scenarios. Her planning was methodical and thorough, demonstrating an understanding of how sniper operations integrated with larger military objectives. During the execution phase, her leadership was calm and effective, making necessary adjustments without losing sight of the overall mission goals. The operation was successful, with all objectives achieved and no simulated casualties among friendly forces. Major Stevens, who had been brought in from Fort Bragg to observe the exercise, provided feedback during the debrief. "Chen, your planning and execution were outstanding. You demonstrated the kind of tactical thinking and leadership skills we look for in sniper team leaders. That was professional-level work." "Thank you, sir. I tried to apply everything I've learned about team coordination and mission planning. It showed. You have a natural ability to see the big picture while managing critical details. That's a rare combination." Week 7 brought advanced marksmanship training that pushed the boundaries of precision shooting. Candidates learned to engage targets at extreme distances using specialized equipment and ammunition. They practiced shooting at ranges exceeding 1,500 meters, requiring calculations that accounted for numerous environmental factors including temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, and wind patterns at multiple altitudes. Sarah's mathematical aptitude and understanding of ballistics served her well in these advanced applications. She quickly mastered the use of sophisticated ballistic computers and demonstrated an intuitive grasp of how various factors affected bullet trajectory at extreme distances. The extreme long-range shooting exercises took place at a specialized range that allowed for engagements out to 2,000 meters. Candidates used .50 caliber rifles and specialized ammunition designed for ultra-long-range precision work. "Chen, your performance at extreme range is exceptional," Instructor Phillips told her after she successfully engaged targets at 1,800 meters. "You're achieving first-round hits at distances that challenge experienced snipers. That kind of precision at extreme range is extremely rare." "Thank you, Sergeant. I've spent a lot of time studying how environmental factors affect bullet flight. It shows. You're making adjustments instinctively that most shooters have to calculate manually. That's the mark of a truly gifted marksman." Week 8 introduced urban sniper operations, a specialized skill set that had become increasingly important in modern warfare. Candidates learned to operate in built-up areas, engage targets from elevated positions, and coordinate with infantry units in close-quarters combat situations. Urban sniping presented unique challenges including limited fields of fire, complex ballistics calculations due to building effects on wind patterns, and the need to distinguish between combatants and civilians in crowded environments. Sarah's attention to detail and patience served her well in these scenarios. During one complex urban exercise, Sarah had to eliminate a high-value target in a crowded marketplace while avoiding civilian casualties. The shot required engaging through a narrow window at 600 meters while accounting for wind patterns affected by surrounding buildings. "Target eliminated, no civilian casualties," reported the range safety officer after Sarah's shot. Exceptional precision shooting in a complex urban environment. Week 9 brought the comprehensive field exercise that tested all skills learned throughout the course. Candidates were deployed to remote areas and required to complete multi-day operations involving reconnaissance, target identification, and precision shooting under realistic field conditions. Sarah was partnered with Thompson, the Ranger sergeant who had initially questioned the standards for the course. Over the weeks of training, Thompson had developed genuine respect for Sarah's abilities and was eager to work with her on the final exercise. Their mission involved infiltrating an enemy-controlled area, establishing observation posts, gathering intelligence over a 72-hour period, and eliminating specific high-value targets when the opportunity presented itself. The exercise took place in challenging terrain during early spring weather, with temperatures ranging from near freezing at night to uncomfortably warm during the day. Sarah and Thompson had to cover over 20 miles on foot, establish multiple concealed positions, and maintain surveillance while avoiding detection by opposing forces actively searching for them. During the surveillance phase, Sarah's patience and observational skills proved crucial to mission success. She identified patterns in enemy movement that Thompson had missed, located concealed positions and equipment, and developed a comprehensive understanding of the target area that enabled them to plan their actions effectively. When opportunities arose to engage their assigned targets, Sarah's shooting was flawless. She eliminated 4 high-value targets at ranges from 500 to 1,200 meters using different rifles and ammunition types. Each engagement was executed with precision and professionalism that impressed the observing instructors. "Chen, that was some of the finest precision shooting I've witnessed in 15 years of teaching," Chief Anderson told her during the post-exercise debrief. "Your performance under field conditions was exceptional." "Thank you, Chief. I had an excellent partner and good training." "You made those shots look routine, but I know how difficult they were. That's the mark of a true professional." Week 10 was dedicated to final examinations and evaluation. Candidates had to demonstrate mastery of all course material through written tests, practical exercises, and comprehensive shooting evaluations. The standards were unforgiving, and several candidates who had performed well throughout the course failed during final testing. Sarah's final examinations were outstanding across all categories. Her written test scores were among the highest in the class, her practical skills demonstrations were flawless, and her shooting performance exceeded standards by significant margins. The final shooting test required engaging targets at multiple distances using various rifles and ammunition types, all while dealing with time pressure and simulated stress factors. Sarah achieved perfect scores on all segments of the test, demonstrating the precision and consistency that had characterized her performance throughout the course. "Chen, your final examination performance was exceptional," Martinez told her as scores were tabulated. "You've demonstrated mastery of all course material and shooting skills that place you among the top graduates we've ever had." The graduation ceremony was held on a Friday afternoon in late May, with families and senior officers in attendance. Of the 24 soldiers who had begun the course, 11 successfully completed all requirements. Sarah was not only among the graduates but was recognized as the honor graduate for overall excellence throughout the 10-week program. Colonel Webb, who had initially resisted her entry into sniper training, was present to address the graduates. His remarks included specific recognition of the historic nature of the class. "This graduation represents a milestone in military history," Webb told the assembled audience. "For the first time, a woman has successfully completed United States Army Sniper School and has done so with distinction that places her among the finest graduates in the school's 47-year history." He turned to address Sarah directly. "Soldier Chen, your performance throughout this course has been exemplary. You have demonstrated that capability transcends all other considerations in military service. You have earned your place among America's most elite soldiers through performance that cannot be questioned or denied." "Thank you, sir. I'm honored to serve. The honor is ours, Chen. You've proven something important not just about yourself, but about the potential that exists when we judge people by their abilities rather than our preconceptions." As Sarah received her sniper qualification badge and certificate, she thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. From the quiet woods of Oregon to the elite brotherhood of American military snipers, she had persevered through challenges that would have defeated most people. But she also knew that graduation was just the beginning. The real test would come when she deployed with her unit and had to put her skills to use in actual combat operations. The training was over, but the mission was just beginning. The phone call to her grandfather that evening was filled with pride and emotion. At 93, Thomas Chen's voice was strong as he congratulated his granddaughter on her achievement. "Little Sparrow, you have accomplished something magnificent. You have honored our family, your country, and, most importantly, yourself. But, remember, the badge and the certificate are just symbols. The real achievement is in the character and skill you have developed to earn them." "I understand, grandfather. This is just the beginning." "Yes, it is. Now you must prove worthy of the trust that has been placed in you. Use your skills wisely, protect those who cannot protect themselves, and never forget that with great capability comes great responsibility." "I won't forget. I promise." As Sarah prepared for sleep that night, she reflected on how much her life had changed since that first rejection letter 3 years earlier. The girl who had been told she wasn't qualified to attend sniper school had become a woman who graduated at the top of her class from the most demanding military training course in America. Tomorrow, she would begin preparing for deployment with her new unit, where she would finally have the opportunity to put her skills to use in service of her country. The doubters had been silenced by her performance, but Sarah knew that the greatest challenges still lay ahead. She was ready for whatever came next, confident in her abilities and secure in the knowledge that she had earned her place through merit rather than politics. The little girl from Oregon was now officially one of the most dangerous people on any battlefield, and she was prepared to prove it when duty called. The desert wind carried the smell of dust and diesel fuel across Forward Operating Base Courage, a sprawling military outpost in eastern Afghanistan that served as home to 3,000 American and coalition forces. Sarah Chen had been stationed there for 6 months, serving as the primary sniper for Bravo Company, 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. It was her first deployment, and every day brought new challenges that tested not just her shooting skills but her ability to function as a critical member of an elite infantry unit. The Rangers had initially been skeptical about having a female sniper attached to their company, but Sarah's performance during training exercises and minor operations had gradually won their respect. Captain Rodriguez, the company commander, was a combat veteran who cared more about results than politics, and Sarah's results had been impressive from the beginning. "Chen, you've proven yourself capable during routine operations," Rodriguez told her during a briefing for what would become the most significant mission of her career. "But, tonight, you're going to face the real test. We have intelligence indicating that a high-value target will be meeting with local Taliban commanders in a compound approximately 12 kilometers from our position." The target was Commander Rashid Mahmoud, a Taliban operative responsible for coordinating attacks against coalition forces throughout the region. Intelligence suggested he was planning a major offensive that could result in significant American casualties if not stopped. The mission was to capture Mahmoud if possible, eliminate him if capture proved impossible, and gather intelligence about planned Taliban operations. This is going to be a joint operation with Navy SEALs from DevGru, Rodriguez continued. They'll be handling the ground assault while you provide overwatch and precision fire support. The SEAL team leader specifically requested our best sniper for this mission. Sarah felt a mixture of pride and nervousness at the assignment. Working with DevGru, the Navy's most elite special operations unit, was both an honor and a tremendous responsibility. These were operators who had conducted some of the most dangerous missions in military history, and they were trusting her to provide the precision shooting that could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. The SEAL team leader was Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, a veteran of multiple deployments who had earned his reputation through performance in some of the most challenging operations of the war in Afghanistan. Morrison was professional but clearly skeptical about working with an Army sniper he had never met, especially one whose reputation was based more on training scores than combat experience.
"Chen, I've heard good things about your shooting," Morrison told her during their mission planning session. "But this isn't a training range. This is real combat against an enemy that shoots back. Are you prepared for that?" "Yes, sir." "I'm ready." "Good. Because my men's lives are going to depend on your ability to perform under pressure. If you can't handle the stress, speak up now. There's no shame in admitting you're not ready for this level of operation." Sarah understood Morrison's concern. She was untested in real combat, and he was responsible for the lives of his men. But she also knew her capabilities and was confident in her preparation. "Sir, I understand the responsibility. I'm prepared to do whatever is necessary to support the mission and protect your team." Morrison studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right, Chen. Let's talk about what we need from you." The mission plan was complex, requiring precise coordination between multiple elements. The SEALs would approach the target compound under cover of darkness, establish positions around the building, and attempt to capture Mahmoud when he arrived for his meeting. Sarah would be positioned on a ridge approximately 800 meters from the compound, providing overwatch and eliminating any threats that emerged during the operation. "Chen, your primary responsibility is protecting my team during the assault," Morrison explained. "Secondary responsibility is eliminating Mahmoud if he tries to escape and we can't capture him. Tertiary responsibility is providing intelligence about enemy movements in the area." The shooting positions had been selected based on satellite imagery and drone reconnaissance. Sarah would have clear lines of sight to all approaches to the compound and could engage targets at ranges from 300 to 1200 meters depending on where threats appeared. "The biggest challenge is going to be target identification," Morrison continued. "The compound will have civilians, including women and children. You cannot engage any target unless you have positive identification of enemy combatants and clear authorization from me or my designated controller." Sarah understood the critical importance of target identification. Rules of engagement in Afghanistan were strict, and mistakes could have far-reaching political and military consequences. She had trained extensively on target identification protocols and was confident in her ability to distinguish between combatants and non-combatants even under stress. The team departed FOB Courage at 2,100 hours, traveling in specially modified vehicles that could navigate the rough terrain between the base and their objective. Sarah rode with the Rangers who would provide security for her shooting position, while Morrison's SEAL team took a separate route to their infiltration point. The journey to the objective area took 3 hours, moving slowly through terrain that offered numerous opportunities for enemy ambush. Sarah used the time to review her mission materials, check her equipment, and mentally prepare for what would be her first real combat operation. Master Sergeant Williams had taught her that mental preparation was as important as physical preparation for precision shooting under stress. "Chen, when you're in a combat situation, your mind is your most important weapon," he had told her during training. "If your mind is clear and focused, your body will follow. If your mind is scattered or fearful, no amount of physical skill will save you." Sarah practiced the breathing and visualization techniques Williams had taught her, imagining herself successfully completing various scenarios that might arise during the mission. She visualized different target presentations, various weather conditions, and potential equipment malfunctions, mentally rehearsing her responses to each situation. At 0130 hours, the teams reached their respective positions.
Sarah and her security element established themselves on the ridge overlooking the target compound, while Morrison's SEALs moved into position around the building. The compound was a typical rural Afghan structure, high walls surrounding a central courtyard, with several buildings that could house multiple families or serve as meeting spaces for local leaders. Sarah set up her shooting position with methodical care, using night vision equipment to survey the target area and identify potential threats. Her primary rifle was a custom .308 that had been specially modified for extreme accuracy, equipped with advanced optics and a suppressor to minimize muzzle flash and sound signature. Overwatch in position, Sarah reported over the radio. I have clear lines of sight to all target areas.
Copy, Overwatch. This is Ghost 7. We're moving into final positions now. The waiting began.
Intelligence indicated that Mahmoud would arrive sometime between 0200 and 0400 hours for his meeting with local Taliban commanders.
Until then, the teams had to remain hidden and alert, ready to react instantly when the target appeared.
Sarah used her optics to study the compound and surrounding area, noting potential threats and escape routes that Mahmoud might use if the operation was compromised. She identified several positions where enemy fighters could establish defensive positions and calculated ranges and wind corrections for engaging targets in each location. At 0237 hours, vehicles approached the compound from the east. Sarah watched through her scope as 3 pickup trucks entered the courtyard, carrying approximately 12 men armed with AK-47 rifles and RPG launchers.
Ghost 7, this is Overwatch.
I have multiple vehicles entering the compound from the east. 12 to 15 military-age males, heavily armed.
Copy, Overwatch. Continue observation.
Sarah tracked the vehicles as they parked in the courtyard and the armed men deployed around the compound. Through her thermal imaging system, she could see additional heat signatures inside the buildings, indicating that more people were already present. Ghost 7, I count approximately 25 to 30 individuals total in the compound.
Armed positions established at the main gate, corners of the courtyard, and rooftop positions. Roger, Overwatch. Stand by.
At 0312 hours, a 4th vehicle arrived, a black SUV that moved with the kind of security formation that suggested it was carrying someone important. Sarah adjusted her scope and watched as the vehicle stopped directly in front of the main building.
Ghost 7, high-value vehicle just arrived. Possible target in the SUV. Copy. Continue observation.
4 men exited the SUV, all carrying weapons and moving with the disciplined bearing of experienced fighters. 1 man remained in the center of the group, clearly being protected by the others. Even at 800 meters distance, Sarah could see that he matched the physical description of Mahmoud, medium height, dark beard, wearing traditional Afghan clothing. Ghost 7, I have positive identification of the target.
He's entering the main building with 4 bodyguards. Roger, Overwatch.
We're moving to assault positions. Maintain Overwatch and report any changes. For the next 20 minutes, Sarah watched as Morrison's team moved silently through the darkness toward the compound walls. Their movement was professional and nearly invisible, even with night vision equipment. These were some of the most highly trained soldiers in the world, and their skill was evident in every aspect of their approach. At 0334 hours, the assault began. Flashbang grenades exploded inside the compound as the SEALs breached the wall simultaneously from 3 directions. The element of surprise was complete, but the Taliban fighters recovered quickly and began returning fire.
Contact.
Taking fire from multiple positions. Morrison's voice came over the radio as gunfire erupted throughout the compound. Sarah immediately began identifying targets and engaging enemy fighters who posed threats to the SEAL team. Her first shot eliminated a Taliban fighter who was attempting to set up an RPG position on the roof of the main building. The suppressed rifle made little noise, and the fighter simply collapsed without alerting other enemy combatants to her presence. Overwatch, 1 down on the roof, she reported calmly.
The firefight intensified as more Taliban fighters emerged from buildings throughout the compound.
Sarah's training took over as she methodically engaged target after target, providing precision fire support that kept enemy fighters from establishing effective defensive positions. Her second shot eliminated a fighter who was attempting to flank the SEAL team from the eastern wall. Her third shot stopped an enemy combatant who was preparing to throw a grenade toward Morrison's position. Each shot was calculated, precise, and immediately effective. Overwatch, you're doing outstanding work, Morrison reported during a brief lull in the fighting.
Keep it up.
But, the situation was becoming increasingly complex. Taliban reinforcements were arriving from outside the compound, and the SEALs were beginning to be outnumbered by a significant margin. Sarah could see muzzle flashes from positions outside the walls as enemy fighters attempted to surround the assault team. Ghost 7, I have enemy reinforcements approaching from the north and east.
Estimated 20 to 30 additional fighters. Copy, Overwatch. Can you engage them? Affirmative. Engaging now.
Sarah began engaging the reinforcing fighters at longer ranges, using her advanced optics and ballistics training to make accurate shots at distances exceeding 1,000 meters. Each shot required careful calculation of wind, temperature, and bullet drop, but her training had prepared her for exactly these conditions. Her precision shooting prevented the Taliban reinforcements from establishing effective positions, but she realized that the situation was becoming untenable for the SEAL team. They were outnumbered and in danger of being overwhelmed despite their superior training and equipment.
Ghost 7, you need to extract, Sarah transmit.